getting close, huh? We ready? Welcome back to Restaurant Review. I'm your host, Bob Bockelman. We're only a week away from Thanksgiving. Can you believe it? This year is just flying by, even though for many people it's slow as the devil as we go through recovery. And I'm one of those, slowly getting the house back in order, but we're still months away before we're finished. So our hearts go out to everyone who, especially if you would still be in a trailer this Thanksgiving time. Hopefully it'll be your last, because we certainly shouldn't be in there. We should all be back in our homes. Anyway, we're back, and glad to be back to you all. We have a new restaurant today. As you know, we've been having trouble getting some musicians, although I see a couple of lights coming in the rainbow giving us some looks for the future. Perhaps we'll get some. So, in fact, today we're really going to do a little something different with regard to the musical guests. It's something you may be familiar with if you watch our channels all the time. But enough about that. Like I said, we want to welcome you back. We're really glad to get a new restaurant. And once again, Magazine Street has opened another, with more to come, I might say. I know at least two more that are about to open. So we're so pleased that we can bring you just one street and just keep going up and down and filling it with restaurants. This one is very, very close to Napoleon, an ideal location. It originally opened, the whole building was renovated a few years ago. Went through some shaky hands and really never did develop into much. But we have some new young buyers, investors, and who are working, have changed it up. The restaurant itself, for the most part, is in fabulous condition, so it really doesn't need to, although I know there's a little tweaking. We'll talk to our guests today and see on that. But for those who don't know who I'm talking about, the name of the restaurant is called Storyville. Now, right away, you're going to tell me, well, Bob, how can that be named Storyville? Because Storyville is in the French Quarter. Well, if you remember correct, Storyville proper was always right on the periphery. But for those who are talking about the Jimmy Buffett place, he actually changed the name years ago when he took it over to Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, which is more in tune to his restaurant establishments. So we'll find out more details why Storyville has moved uptown when we speak to our guest. But again, in fact, let's go ahead without any wasting any more time. Let's go ahead and introduce the executive chef and co-owner of Storyville, Mr. RACHON Banks. Welcome to the show, RACHON.
Thank you very much.
Now, this is the part I can't believe, other than Storyville, which we need to explain to the folks, is that with a name like RACHON Banks, you're going to tell me you're not native born. And that's something really surprising to me. Is that true?
It is indeed true. I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Ann Arbor, Michigan. Can you believe that, folks, with a name like RACHON Banks? Wow. Tell us a little bit more of how you came to New Orleans, and a little bit about your background with regard to an interest in the restaurant business.
Well, I first moved to New Orleans in the fall of 2001.
Okay.
Started off my college career at Tulane University, majored in sociology, and spent about a year and a half waiting tables at Morton Steakhouse down at Canal Place.
Okay.
My first job, in fact, as a 12-year-old boy, was bussing tables at a place in Ann Arbor, Michigan called the Old Fashioned Soup Kitchen. And since then, I've had different jobs in the industry in New Orleans as well as in New York City. Okay. And now here again back in New Orleans.
So what lured you back to New Orleans, other than your alma mater?
Well, watching the entire city go through the whole ordeal after Katrina, and talking to my friends who were still here and some who had already returned to the city, I was definitely was feeling like I needed to come back here. And I had toyed with the idea of trying to open my own place for a while, and I figured, what better time than now, and what better place than New Orleans.
You're 100% on both of those, and we're pleased, as everyone knows. We're way back up to staff. People can't believe it in restaurants that we're over Katrina levels now, and we continue to grow. So even though our population can't grow as fast as our restaurant population, New Orleanians thrive on it. It's such a key to our whole existence, that and the music and the culture. So we're really glad you're open now. What's the exact address of? I know you're in the first block off of Napoleon, right? On the Riverside.
Yes, Bob. We're located at 4416 Magazine Street, which is right near the intersection of Napoleon and Magazine, right across from Lawrence Square Park.
Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely location. I know our director is going to show some outside pictures as well as indoors. It's a beautiful one-story brick building done with a lot of wood paneling and stuff that really makes it stand out. I think we got some pictures there. There's some tables outside. You couldn't. I know when we were there the other day, they were filled because the weather's so perfect. There you go. That nothing better than eating out on the bank and watching the traffic go by. But inside, you've done a beautiful job with regard to its a magnificent, like I call it, hunter green walls, dark green walls with that deep wood, and some magnificent paintings that really are very, very attractive styles. Kind of slate-looking tile floor. Now, I know you say one of the few changes in the restaurant seating per se is that you're actually going to put some great green leather banquettes on the perimeter. Is that right?
Yes, Bob. That's the plan. It's a continual process in renovating the place and trying to make the dining room as comfortable as possible and also as functional as possible. But yes, we are going to put some banquettes in the
I think that bistro style is so popular today, not only because it's reflecting the little more casualness of the restaurant business, but also because majority of our diners today are two-tops, and what better way, instead of having this little small table to comfort one to seat them on the banquette, makes for a lot more of informality, and it makes for a lot more conviviality where your neighbor talking to neighbor, plus also easy to slide together if you do get a four-top. So it really is a great increase for your capacity, for your diners situation, and I think it's going to be a welcome addition, even though it's well appointed at this time. Now, right now, it's my understanding you're open 7 days a week. That's your goal. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We're open 7 days a week now, Bob. We initially started off being open 6 days a week, and like many restaurants in New Orleans, we were closing on Mondays.
Right.
Now that we're doing lunch every single day, we are open Monday through Sunday every day.
And you're open at what time in the morning?
11 a.m.
11, and you're continuous open, and I understand it's really welcome back to the late hours. Is that right?
Oh, yes, Bob. That's been we've had a great response with the late night dining from people in the service industry, especially myself. When I was waiting tables in college, can remember that there was only so few choices later in the evening to eat good food. So that's been one of the main things we've tried to do.
Right, and especially post-Katrina, it took so long for restaurants, one, to be able to staff up to start getting to that level that they can have another wait staff to do the late night. And it's so important to New Orleanians because many prefer to do their other activities, whether it's a movie theater or something like that first, and then come in for a drink and, of course, to have something as well to eat. So, and of course, with Mardi Gras coming up, you've got certainly a prime location for all the weekday and weekend parades. So we know you're going to hustle. So, folks, the important thing for you is let's not wait till Mardi Gras, even because Mardi Gras is early this year. It's February 5th, and some of the parades are mid-January. So that's right around the corner. We're just finishing Christmas, and you will be already preparing for Mardi Gras. So you need to get in there before it gets too heavy in crowds and give them a try to the food. Okay, anything I know you wanted to tell a little bit about your kitchen staff, because you got some people with some credentials that you feel proud of, and let's talk about that before we move into the photos.
Sure. First, I'd just like to acknowledge two of my sous chefs that work my lunch that are two good friends of mine and ex-co-workers from Morton Steakhouse, Richard Bickford and Ben Raphael. They've been a great deal of help to me in learning more about this business and learning more in the kitchen, and also my sous chef during the evenings, Max. He was the former sous chef at Arnold. So those three people have been been a tremendous help to me in learning more about the industry and just continuing to grow as a chef and learning more about the food.
Those are two phenomenal restaurants of New Orleans, and we haven't had Arnold's on. Of course, our policy here is new restaurants. We had Morton's on because of a charity situation when we started with the Tales of the Cocktail. And in fact, I just ate there a few weeks ago, and still wonderful, wonderful steakhouse. So, but both restaurants are really superior and will have long-standing, will be here for many, many years. So you were lucky to get some of those coups, because I know that, again today, people are doing a lot of restaurant hopping because of the opening so many and trying to get the best deal. So I think you've got a real good staff that will present a lot of great ideas to your restaurant. Okay, now let's actually start taking a look at some of the pictures. Now he's got a pretty extensive menu, and I hate to say he does, and we'll see when we get to the entree. He really emphasizes, not that it's for the, emphasizes the burger plate. And I know one of my favorite places growing up was a place called the Fatted Calf. It was right across from Pat O'Brien's, where they did sort of like what Semolina's did to pasta, they did for burgers. They would have a different burger of each continent. They'd have Eau Champignon, which was a wine, and a mushroom. Each different nationality. So I ate there almost weekly. It was so great. Well, he's got almost a similar, not so much nationality, but different types. So you're going to see he's really put some emphasis on the burger, which we've been telling you here on the thing. The return to some of those basic foods has been long coming. The last 5 years, burgers, hot dogs, all the soul food, basic food has all been a return from the perhaps snobbishness of the pre-2000 period. So when we get to that, but that does not mean he's limited to just burger. You'll see the plates and the other stuff we have. But let's go ahead and take, he's got a great line of appetizers. We, of course, try and picture at least 3 for you all the time. And let's take a look at that very first one. And this, folks, is something which has gotten a little notoriety, a little bit more importance in a lot of restaurants, and that is the cheese board or the cheese plate. And he uses a local purvey of cheeses. It really has gotten a wonder. It's a great way to start a meal because for those who, like myself, are cheeseaholics, this is just one thing that, especially if you have more than one diner, you go around the table. Let's see if we, Mr. Director, why don't we focus on that and keep a long look on it, because we're going to go around the table and talk about the cheeses. Why don't we start right up at the center at the 12 o'clock position if people could sit. Now, you got 2 sets of strip cheeses there. Mm-hmm. Let's take the one on the right and let's go with that one first.
The one on the right is probably my favorite cheese on that plate. It's a French cheese called raclette. It's very creamy. It's a great melting cheese, and I also used it on a couple burgers. I put a slider special on there, and eaten cold or melted, it's just a fantastic cheese. Very creamy.
Okay, and then moving over to 1 o'clock. What's next?
Next to that, we have our St. Auger Blue.
Blue cheese. Wonderful, yeah. Wonderful cheese.
It's a great blue cheese. It's not as mild as some blue cheeses, but It has a great finish, and it really just stays on your palate. It's great.
Okay, let's come on down.
Next to that, we have our Delice Triple Creme Brie, which is another fantastic cheese. It's very creamy and much more mild than a lot of the bries you'll find out there.
And there's some toast points on the right and down at the bottom. Let's move in, continuing around the clock. There's a little clump ball there on the left, which was just a magnet. To me, it was a dessert cheese. It was so sweet and so tasty. Let's talk about that.
That is one of my favorites as well. That's a honey goat cheese. It's fantastic. It is almost a dessert cheese, something that you'd be great to drink with a port.
Right. And then moving up again.
There we have a white cheddar from Wisconsin, and it's also has dill and garlic in it.
I know there were some herbs in there. I've forgotten exactly. And then lastly, back to the other set of strips.
Yeah, last but not least, we have an Italian organic fontina.
Oh, yeah, wow. Telling you folks, you really, for those who are cheese lovers, and everyone for the most part does, unless they're on some type of lactose intolerant or worried about their waistlines, makes a great way to start a meal because it's light, but at the same time you can pick and choose. Now, are these pretty much fixed, or do you rotate a lot of them? What's your plan in this direction?
For the most part, I like to stay pretty consistent with the cheeses. Again, sometimes I can't get everything I want from my purveyors, so I'll switch it up. But the caproni goat cheese cheese, as well as the raclette. I will try to keep that around as long as I can.
Yeah, I think that's real noteworthy. I think you've gotten a great selection. So unless someone really complains about some of them, I don't see that coming. Okay, well that's good, because a lot of places where you go to the cheese where it changes every week, people get used to something, and one particular one is no longer on the board. So I think the consistency there is important, because too many of the others are just floating, constantly changing the cheeses, so to meet as many needs as possible. Okay, now let's take a look at another thing that's a little unusual for New Orleans, and that's boudin cakes, or boudin balls. Cakes, are you calling them cakes or balls here?
We're calling them croquettes, actually.
Croquettes, even nicer term. Okay, now you know this is very popular, folks, over in the Southwest. Let's see if we can get a look at that. Southwestern Louisiana and the Cajun country. In fact, these come from a great purveyor. They're well known. And tell us how you prepare these, because they are quite different, and also some of the little dipping sauces you're presenting on the side.
Well, I'll begin to talk about the boudin by saying the first time I had it, being a Michigan boy, I was a little shocked that it's eaten directly out of the casing, but it's delicious stuff. One of my good friends from Lake Charles turned me onto it, when I was in college about 6 years ago, and it's just wonderful stuff. We get ours from Bow Bridge. We just take it out of the casing. We put it in the egg wash, and we cover it with panko breadcrumbs, which is a Japanese breadcrumb. It's very light breadcrumb, very fine in texture. We then deep fry them, and we serve them with the Ritz crackers you see there. With the crackers you see there, and also with our toast points, as well as a lemon garlic butter and a Creole mustard.
Creole mustard, which is give it a little spice. Yeah, definitely, folks, you're going to see a difference. I mean, you probably had the crab cakes or even the boudin balls fried, but the typical flour batter, wheat batter, is totally different than the panko. And you've heard us talk over the season. It's become part of the Asian influence, has influenced all of cuisine, not only here locally but throughout the world. And that particular breadcrumb is so delicate, so light, so it puts a whole new spin on the boudin cake or croquette. So if you like the little Southwestern taste with a little twist here, I think you really do. Now, one of the prettiest appetizers that we got coming up next is called Uptown Wonton. I love that name. Let's take a look at that. We've got a couple of pictures of these, and tell us a little bit more about that. Again, most people, wonton, they think of the typical long, like egg roll kind of stuff. This is light. These are all like tidbits or bites. I just crave them. And tell us not only what you do with them, but also what they're stuffed with.
Okay, the Uptown Wonton is actually something I just came up with on a whim, which I think a lot of chefs and people who love cooking will tell you sometimes the best things are just kind of created on the fly. And basically what I did is I took shallots and crushed red pepper along with some diced asparagus, and I stuffed that inside of the wonton with the honey goat cheese and finely diced raisins. And what I do is go ahead and just flash fry the wontons. And at first I thought about presenting them closed, but I think showing what's inside of them is a fantastic way to present them.
Not only for us, but also really to any of the diners. So I think it's just. And what I found so good about this is there's no meat. This is really a vegetarian. We got some vegetarians I know outside who watch us. So it's no meat. But the raisins in there give it a meaty texture, and as well as the sweetness mixed with the cheese. Really, really delightful, folks. The hotness of the skin, but it's saying the coolness of the asparagus. Really a great kind, and one of the prettiest things. I do want to say the director's going to put up sometime today our phone calls, and we're trying to encourage people to coming back as to give us calls so we're speaking to RACHON Banks to hear about his new restaurant, Storyville, on Napoleon and Magazine. I'll say on Napoleon Magazine, right off of Napoleon. So please don't hesitate to give us a call all during the show and ask RACHON a question or myself. Meanwhile, let's go back. Let's start now. That's all of our appetizers pictures, but let's talk about a few of the others. But like I say, you have a pretty extensive. We wanted to take the ones that were a little unusual or really were superior in the nature. Not that the others are not, but the others, some of these are things you'll find done in other restaurants, and maybe if there's any particular difference in presentation or something, tell us about it. Sure. Let's go. What would be your next one you'd like to tell us about?
Let's see. Well, there's a couple things that I do on our menu that other people do as well at a lot of different restaurants and bars around the city. I really do like the potato skins, even though it's something you see a lot of different places. It's just it's hard to go wrong with cheese and and crispy potato, and we got applewood smoked bacon on there, and chives, and it's just a nice appetizer. It's comfort food.
You've got a little Mexican influence with nachos gigante and chips and guacamole. Anything particular about those?
The nachos are pretty traditional. The one thing that I would say that we do that, I'm proud of is we just make our own chips, which is really easy to do. But, a lot of people will use shortcuts there. It just makes for a better tortilla chip, I believe, if you fry them yourself.
And one really should be a signature appetizer, which we probably should have included a picture. It's called the Red Light Poppers. We don't have a picture yet of it. We're jumping ahead there, Mr. Director. Red Light Poppers is another appetizer, and in fact, we didn't get into what I asked in the introduction. So let's take a moment here and talk about that. One, how did we come up with the name Story? I mean, obviously, we know we're Storyville in New Orleans. How did you decide to use it in your restaurant?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the toughest things for myself and the other owner of Storyville, Daniel Finkelstein, to settle on was a name. I went through several different versions of menus that I created and wrote. I cooked a lot of stuff, and one thing that we could not settle on 4 months was a name. And I've always kind of been intrigued with old New Orleans, and read a lot about it when I was in college here. And we thought that the Storyville name would not only be relevant to the city itself, but would provide kind of a playful theme for our restaurant. We do have some photographs in our restaurant that were taken of Storyville.
Right, I saw that after. We had taken so many of the photos and of the beautiful artwork, but really had missed the actual photographs of the Storyville ladies and madams that were in the other part. Even though you saw them from a distance, some of them you really didn't see close up. So that's really why I put two into the name. And now going to your appetizer, the Red Light Poppers. Tell us a little bit about that, because it finally got something that really brings out the name.
Yeah, the Red Light Poppers are something that I have to take absolutely no personal credit for, because they are completely on the menu due to the other owner of Storyville, Daniel Finkelstein, and he was someone who had tried them somewhere else, I believe in New York City, and they just are deep-fried mashed potato bites flavored with butter, and we serve them with a Diablo dipping sauce, which is basically a dipping sauce that contains roasted jalapenos, onions, sour cream. It's just a nice little bar snack.
Sounds great. Well, folks, we're talking to RACHON Banks, the co-owner and executive chef of Storyville on on Magazine. I'll get it right off Napoleon. What we're going to do now, as we mentioned, we don't have a musical guest, so we're going to go ahead and let you take a look at something, and we'll be right back with you to continue with the menu.
Atop the Gino Bridge, Captain Swimp has taken control.
With my remote control, I can raise and lower the bridge when I want to. Everyone will have to pay a toll to me. I'll be rich.
Won't get away with this, Captain Swimp. Wait till Alicia Almighty hears about this young. Find out how much he's making on that toll so we can get a cut of that deal. Meanwhile, across town, our hero is taking her morning walk after getting her mocha frappuccino.
Ginkgo biloba. Ooh, I like that word, ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba. Huh, but like Ellen says, if you can remember to take it, you don't need it. Ginkgo. Cheese. Ouh là là, brie de Provence, camembert, chèvre, gruyère. Camembert, comté, manchego. Ooh. All right, cheese. Where could I change.
Spotting a nearby boutique, our hero dashes in to change.
Hey, what the?
Ooh, I love that blouse.
After finding an empty dressing room, our hero emerges to save the day.
Hey, kids. Do your homework, eat your vegetables. Oopsie-daisy.
Hey, my documents. Thanks a lot, lady.
No need to thank me. Just doing my job.
Refocusing on the job at hand, Alicia prepares her thoughts for the dangers ahead.
Oh, it sure is cloudy today. I know. I'll take a shortcut. There. Hey, watch out.
Always thinking ahead, Alicia uses the city's landmarks as a guide to her destination.
Okay, kids, this is the statue of Robert E. Lee. Can anyone tell me which direction he's facing?
Oh, I know. He's facing down.
It won't be much longer. Our hero will swoop in and save the day.
Mocha latte, frappuccino latte. Whee!
Will Captain Swimp take over the G&O Bridge?
That'll be $1.
Hey, what's the holdup? I'm in a hurry.
A hurry, huh? That'll be $2.
Will the mayor get a cut? Will our hero remember why she's flying around?
Ginkgo biloba, ginkgo biloba.
Find out next time on the adventures of Alicia Almighty. Brought to you by Dagger Brother.
Well, folks, I know you're in awe as much as I. That's compliments of our director, Mr. Larry Perkins. He's a great animator, and he's got a bunch of series running on PSAs. And very coincidental, that was a cheesy lady, and she loves her cheese, and we just talked about cheese plates. So what a coincidence, Thank you, Mr. Perkins. We're always interested in taking a look at work. In fact, he's been kind enough. He's going to show us a few more when we break for the other musical breaks. So stay tuned. If you liked Alicia Almighty, there might be more of her coming or some more of his great work. It was very, very interesting. Okay, we're back with RACHON Banks, the executive chef and co-owner of Storyville. So we said for it's right there on magazine, a few steps off of Napoleon. Very easy to find. It's open 7 days a week from early morning 11 all the way through, with seating outdoors as well as in. We didn't ask you, RACHON, about how many can you seat in the restaurant. I know you get...
Our capacity is 165.
Wow. So it's a very nice sized restaurant, so don't worry about it. And we got the late dining hours, which is very important, coming up at the holidays, as well as really all weekends. So we all like to go out late and enjoy ourselves. Okay, we've covered some, and we said we really haven't covered a lot of the appetite. We've done about 4, and they have about almost 10, so there's a lot of appetizers going on there. But we're going to move on. Unfortunately, that day we did not have a soup. We usually bring copies of soup to you, and I know he does. The daily you do a soup, different soup. But tell us a little bit about your soup plans.
Yeah, but we do have a soup daily. We also have a soup and sandwich combo for lunch.
Oh, great! Well, what are some of your exotic or ones that you really think are going to hit the ground?
We did a roasted tomato and garlic soup a couple weeks back, which was tremendously popular. Mm-hmm. We've had a spicy shrimp and corn bisque. And just yesterday, we made a vegan soup, 100% vegan soup. Wow. With broccoli and corn and red peppers and asparagus and a ton of different vegetables, but no animal products whatsoever. And it was actually very good.
Great. So you see, he's got some good soups by, and of course we may be getting cold weather tomorrow, folks, so that'd be nice, even though it's short-lived again. But eventually we're going to start staying a little cooler, so I eat soup year-round, but at the same time, it's great in the winter months, so this would be a great addition, especially after a late-night parade, to stop in and get a cup or a bowl of soup along with either a sandwich or anything else you'd like. All right, now let's talk about salads. We have a picture of one, but there's some others that we really need to talk about. He's got about 6 salads on the menu, one that really is a signature one, and we just didn't have time to get a picture. But the one I tried was the traditional Italian tomato and cheese. Tell us about this particular one.
Oh, this is your basic fresh mozzarella and beefsteak tomato salad. We have fresh mozzarella cheese layered atop of ripe tomatoes. a little fresh basil on top,
Yeah, man.
and a roasted red pepper vinaigrette that we make in-house along with the rest of our salad dressings.
Excellent, and really like the fresh basil and leaves on the side. I always pick up and love. I'm trying to get people to realize that a fresh herb is so much more important than some of the dried herbs or things, even though you can use those in your preparation. The addition of a fresh herb to a meal, just whether it's just a little piece, if you don't want to eat the whole leaf or something, to add that to this particular dish. I ate all of the basil leaves with the tomato and the cheese together. Just superb. So it really gives a tremendous flavor addition without worried about salt, all these other things that we normally put on to hide our food. So definitely try that. Now, let's talk about your signature salad, even though it's not named after the restaurant. I think it's what do you call it, your goat cheese salad?
Yes, Bob. The goat cheese salad. It's, since the day we opened, been one of our most popular salads. It's mixed greens with our house-made basil vinaigrette dressing. We just toss it in that, and then we put the honey goat cheese in the salad as well.
That's the same one that was in that cheese plate we raved about so much earlier, right?
Yes, it's the same. It's the same variety of goat cheese. It's a honey goat cheese. It's very sweet.
Very sweet.
It's excellent cheese. And along with the fresh greens, we have pine nuts and crispy prosciutto on the salad.
Now the pine nuts toasted, or you just?
No, we just put them on there raw. Just raw pine nuts.
Love pine nuts, but I can both ways. I love them both roasted and also plain. They're so soft, so it's not like a typical nut where you're crunchy and as soon as you bite into it, it gives in. So
yeah.
It's yummy.
It almost has a nice, almost I don't know. I want to say even chewy texture to the pine nuts, but all the flavors in that goat cheese salad, I'm very proud of it. Works well with the salty prosciutto and the basil flavor, along with the rich and sweet goat cheese.
And one of my favorites that's made a comeback, which before was heretofore only relegated to a steak restaurant or to one of our seafood restaurants out on the lake that's not coming back, and that is the wedge. Now, today's wedge is not as pure as it used to be. The wedge used to be pure lettuce. Nowadays, there's onions, tomatoes, and let's tell us about your particular brand. How are you doing it?
Well, I just start with the iceberg wedge, and on top of that, I just add our homemade blue cheese dressing along with some blue cheese crumbles. We have red onion, and then our applewood smoked bacon.
Right. Now you've got a traditional Caesar as well as one with chicken. You've got a Greek salad, and you got a couple of others, right?
Yes, Bob. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, so you see, for those salad-loving ladies or something, you want a soup and a salad together, can't beat it. Even in the hot days right now, it'd be a great, great combination. We really enjoyed the tomato, but we're going to go back and try some of the others. All right. Now, what we want to do is start looking at our appetizers. As I mentioned, he really has gone over the mile with regard to burgers. But before we go to burgers, let's talk about some of the plate dishes, particularly his pasta dishes. We had a lovely, and we got a picture of this coming up, a great seafood pasta that was really tasty. Tell us about beautiful plating. Tell us about what we got in there.
Okay. Well, we start with traditional Alfredo sauce made with heavy cream, Parmesan, a little nutmeg, and then we add to that a fresh basil sauce, basil pesto. So basically you have your Alfredo and you have your pesto mixed together, and along with that we have crawfish tails, and then we grill some shrimp and we put those on top with a little fresh basil. And as you can see there, we also have our toasted French bread.
And as Chef said, the addition of the olive oil to the Alfredo, as well as what I told him, the addition of the crawfish in their cooking, really takes off that Alfredo sauce. I'm not a big fan of the Alfredo sauce back in the 70s because it's so thick, so rich. I could only eat a little bit of it and I'm full, and it's so heavy. By diluting it not only with the olive oil, but also with these additional seafood ingredients, the water that comes out with the stock actually dilutes that cream, so it gives it a new flavor. It certainly makes it a lot lighter than the traditional Alfredo. So don't be put off by the Alfredo sauce, because not a lot of people I know say, oh, that's just too heavy. Much lighter than before. Now, he's got a couple of other pasta dishes, but there's two dishes that we didn't get a chance to try that really sounded great, and one was his brisket. I'm a big fan of brisket, and so I can't wait to go. It was great at Martin's. They specialize as well, and I know maybe some of those chefs that have come over have continue that taste. Let's talk about that brisket dish you do.
Okay, well, our brisket dish is, we just start with a whole beef brisket and we smoke it. In fact, I can't take credit for this either because this brisket recipe was handed to me by a good friend of my uncle's named Mike, who's from San Antonio, Texas. And as we know, Texas folks know barbecue.
Home of the barbecue.
So he has his own seasoning rub. We follow his instructions on how to marinate it overnight. And then after it's been marinated for about 24 hours, we slow smoke it for up to 24 hours with mesquite as well as other woods.
That sounds great. What do you serve it with? So what are some of your sides with that?
Yeah, we serve it with new potatoes, some roasted new potatoes, and just a little barbecue sauce. Sometimes I typically like to serve the barbecue sauce on the side. If the brisket is cooked correctly, it really doesn't need it. So
really smart, yeah. We're finally getting some barbecue here in New Orleans, but some of the ones that are merely more chain-like, first thing they do is smother everything with the barbecue sauce. And if you really have true good barbecue, it's edible without the sauce just as much without it. So that's I recommend. I'm glad to hear you doing that, is put it on the side, because for those who like it, sure, you can smear it all over. But if you like the taste of real barbecue, you really want to taste it. It's a taste of dry as opposed to covered with any type of sauce. Now, another dish is my favorite, and some of these are coming from the Jamaican influence that's coming into the city, the Latino influence, and the barbecue. And that's pulled pork and coleslaw, folks. Can you believe that? Tell us about that dish.
Bob, it's prepared in much a similar way as the brisket. It's slow smoked, not for quite as long. The pork doesn't nearly take as much time as the brisket does to get to the point that it's ready to eat. But we slow smoke it again with the mesquite wood, and we serve it with homemade coleslaw made with red and green cabbage. And, it's one of those dishes where, simplicity is king. We got the brisket with the brisket and potatoes, and the pulled pork with the pulled pork and the coleslaw. Don't do anything else besides that.
All right, now we're going to go back to his forte. As we said, we got some pictures of this. I think I counted like 15 or 16 burgers on the plate. So it's just not minor variations either. We're talking about significant variations. So we picked 3 of what I think about 6 are the most creative new burgers that you're going to see around town that you won't see anywhere else. So this will be a great place to join. And the first burger, I believe, is, you call it what, the Dirty South?
The Dirty South burger.
I say it's the first brunch burger, certainly locally here, if not in the town, so if not in the United States. So let's take a look at our Dirty South burger. And the reason why I called it brunch, because you've got an egg and you've got a topping that would be served in many of our great restaurants for Sunday brunch. Tell us about this great burger. First of all, the burgers in general, what type of meat you use, and I know they're big, heavy pounders.
Yes. All of our burgers are half-pound burgers. And all of our meat is all natural, organic beef. We source it through Washington State, and it's really just fantastic meat. It's very, very tender and pretty lean for ground beef. This burger in particular is one of my favorites. What you have on top is, again, the fried egg. It's served technically sometimes sunny side up, sometimes fried all the way. Either way, it's a delicious dish. And then we go ahead and top it with our signature dirty sauce, which is basically a spicy tomato sauce. And then we saute the crawfish tails in garlic butter and then add all of that together and top it off on the burger.
Unbelievable, man. I know you can get, when you say, I could go to a fast food and get an egg on the burger. Well, those are all scrambled eggs. Egg yolks are, maybe if you'd be nice to say a quiche or something, but it's not. This is actually a fried egg, and it's great. It's not runny all over the place. That's the way people can say, the yolk is going to be running. No. It's fried. Mine was fried all the way through, so the taste is divine. Adding the tomato and, of course, the crawfish brings it to a really significant level. So this is as good as eggs hollandaise or something like that at one of the other restaurants in town. And here you've got it in a sandwich that you can eat at any time, day or night. But I think for those who are looking, especially since it's open Sunday, looking for a breakfast sandwich, a brunch burger, ask for the Dirty South, or ask them, and hopefully they'll get to know it as the brunch burger, because I really think the taste is superb. Now, Chef Banks has told us that and you've seen a couple of the vegan dishes that he has. One was that appetizer, he had a soup, but he actually has a true vegan burger. And I mean, I had to show this, folks, because of the flavor. Most people shine away the traditionalist who's not a vegan, who, we don't want that, it's tasteless. And absolutely, it's not soy, it's a black bean burger. Let's take a look, and with great sauces on the side, and you can really make it flavorful.
Yeah, this is our black bean burger, and basically we start with whole black beans. We add to that some yellow corn, cilantro, diced onions, and then we use corn flour to hold it all together. Next to that, we have our mango salsa, which we serve it with, and that is consisting of jalapenos, onions, red peppers, and diced mangoes. And we serve that with any of the condiments you might want, but I prefer it with our spicy ketchup, which is basically a ketchup mixed with an Asian sambal sauce.
That's what it is, folks. I'm telling you. Well, first of all, the burger is great by itself because of the corn. I think you saw the corn. The other ingredients you talked about, it really adds a dimension to, makes a Southwestern style bean without any meat at all. But the salsa and, of course, that ketchup, that was one of the hottest things. I didn't get a chance to ask him, so I'm glad he told us what brought that spice, that heat level up. You know, we love our heat level in New Orleans. Well, Pond, if you could spread that little tin on your burger, you're going to be popping down some drinks or something else after, because you are going to be burning. Great idea, though. Tremendous thing. So whether you're a vegan or not, this is a great change. I promise you, even if you're not a vegan, you're going to like the flavor. Now, we have one more picture of a burger, and that is one of my favorites. I saw Billy the Kid Bison burger. I love bison, and this one's even taken a step further. Tell us what makes Billy the Kid Bison burger different.
Okay, well, first beginning with the meat, it's bison meat, not your traditional, ground beef or a cow. It's from a buffalo, and that makes it right off the bat much more lean than ground beef, which is typically around 85% lean, whereas buffalo you're looking at anywhere from 95 to 96% lean. So it's very healthy, it's good for you, and it has a different, more, I guess, robust and sort of gamey flavor to it. It's really nice. We start with that, and we just stuff it with caramelized onions and blue cheese.
Excellent, folks. I'm telling you, great flavor. I love bison and the addition of the blue cheese. Now let's talk. There was another burger they wanted me to try, but we just couldn't get it all down. And that was the Lulu White burger. Tell us about who is Lulu White, and tell us about how she got her burger.
Well, Lulu White was one of the most famous Storyville madams.
So we got our connection here. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the Lulu White burger is a really popular burger. What we do is start with a half pound of the meat, like all of our other burgers. We flame grill it, and then after we've flame grilled it to about medium rare, depending on what temperature our customer wants, we then take it and we put it in a local amber beer, and we finish steaming it in the local amber beer.
All right.
And we top that with sliced avocados, applewood smoked bacon, and provolone cheese.
Okay, wow. What we're going to do now is quickly go, I'm going to name the burger, and you tell us quickly what the ingredients are so we can just show you the extent of them. The next one, of course, is one that, this may not sell that well here, even though it might be a good burger. And that's called, of his namesake, where he's born, the Detroit burger. I'm not sure you should have. The Blues Brothers are big hits, so we'll use that influence rather than just your birthright. Tell us what makes a good Detroit burger.
The Detroit burger is also steamed in a local amber beer, and we top it with green chilies, caramelized onions and mushrooms, and the garlic dill cheddar that I mentioned earlier before from the cheese board.
Excellent. Now, one close to New Orleans, Napoleon burger. We got to have something right after his street, and also the great emperor of our city, of our country.
Yeah, the Napoleon burger is going to be topped with ham and the triple creme Delice brie that I mentioned earlier. So it's brie cheese and ham on top of a burger.
Wow. The One-Eyed Jack burger.
One-Eyed Jack.
Feeling those cards.
It's the other burger that has a fried egg on it, and it's a fried egg with American cheese and applewood smoked bacon.
Another local name, the Irish Channel burger. What makes it local Irish Channel? Do we get potatoes in it?
No. The Irish Channel burger is named so after a famous Irish Irish stout that will remain nameless, but I'm sure everyone's familiar with. We go ahead and flame grill it, and then we steam it in the stout beer, and then we top it with fried mozzarella cheese.
Okay, the Christos
burger. That is our Greek burger, if you will. It's stuffed with Kalamata olives and feta cheese.
Wow, it is Greek. The Boardwalk burger, back up to the Atlantic coast.
Yeah, the Boardwalk burger is kind of my nod to the Midwest, and down here you got your own version of the sliders, but it basically has your basic grilled onions, caramelized onions, dill pickled chips, and Creole mustard. Real simple burger.
And there's more, but we're running out of time, folks. So what we want to do is take a little break from Chef Baggs. We're going to come back and talk about desserts and a couple other things. But let's see where our director leads us on his continued animation series. Let's see if we're going to pick up from where we left off, and we'll be catching you right on the other side of this little short.
Left our adventure, Captain Swimp had control of the G&O Bridge.
I'll be rich.
The mayor was trying to get a cut of the toll. And our hero got sidetracked on the way to the scene. We now resume our adventure of...
Oh, my latte!
Being the superhero she is, Alicia uses an oncoming fish and her latte as a weapon.
All these years of slaving for swimps. I'll be a millionaire.
With pinpoint accuracy, the latte reaches its target and shorts out the remote.
The remotes are short and hard. What's going on?
With the bridge out of his control, the captain becomes enraged, making him an open target for Alicia's mackerel missile, which knocks him off the bridge in 5 o'clock traffic.
My poor wire, you order. Yeah, right back at you.
Victorious, our hero descends to face the foiled villain.
Oh, darn! A perfectly good latte just ruined. You really shouldn't lay in traffic like that.
Get a flower or $1 or something.
Make sure these cameras get my good side.
Yes, mister.
That'd be $1?
Is my tie straight?
Yes, Mr. DeMare.
Wipe me down.
Yes, Mr. DeMare.
All right, that Junior.
Get that brush off me. I'm ready.
Alicia, or is it Miss Almighty? What can I call you?
How about fine Uncle Woman? Yes,
just
sir.
Alicia.
How about the mayor showing you his appreciation by asking you to join him for dinner? That way I can give you a tour of the city.
No thanks. I'm a lesbian.
Oh, baby, that's all right. I'm a Baptist. Interracial relationships is in these days.
No, sir. Lesbian. Gay.
Oh, honey, that's one of my 3 favorite beans. Red beans, white beans, and lesbians. Yeah, just add me.
Oh,
brother.
Well, darling, you saved the day. Caused a 10-car pileup and backed up traffic from here to yesterday, but you saved girl, what can the mayor do to show you his gratitude?
Well, I do need another latte.
Are y'all finished yet? Can I do my closing now? Captain Swimp is behind bars, and our bridge is freed from his evil grasp. Our city is safe once again.
Steady. Perfect.
Well, kind of.
Lesbian.
Well, join us next time for the adventures of Alicia Almighty. Thank you, brother.
Oh my, that was Alicia Almighty. I think we need to save those for our other companion show. Have you ever seen Real Review on Wednesdays, where we do a lot of shorts on? And we've done some of Mr. Perkins' animation there, and this is his new stuff, which is very good. I hope you enjoy it. Not sure we all follow it, but I think we enjoyed it. It was a nice treat since we didn't have musical guests for you today, so we do thank him for that. But let's get back to our main guest, and that's executive chef and co-owner RACHON Banks, not from New Orleans, of Storyville on magazine near Napoleon. And as you see, we've gone through an extensive list of burgers as well as appetizers, etc. that really ought to lure any burger aficionado, or make one of anyone who's not been one, because of the tremendous list. Now let's pick up a little bit where desserts and beverages, and talk a little bit more before we close out the show. I wasn't able to try any of the desserts because of time constraints, but I understand you have a couple of staples. What are your desserts are you serving nowadays?
Right now we have a sweet potato pie, which is my grandmother's recipe. It's fantastic. And we have cheesecake as well.
Okay, now any specialty of that cheesecake? Is it just plain, or is it one of the?
We like to cover it, top it with different fruit reductions. We've done strawberry and we've done raspberry in the past. Okay,
and that's your grandmother's sweet potato. Anything really great about it you can tell us? I mean, I know it's great.
I can't reveal the secret, but I will tell you the key, I believe, is using condensed milk.
Oh wow! Well, then that is a very good key. Very good key. Okay, as for beverages, there's a huge full bar in the restaurant. Set in the second room. And I know you cater to the beer aficionado, even though I know your qualified bartenders can make any of the really contemporary drinks of the day, the miraculous mojitos that have taken the scene. But tell us specifically about the beers, because I know that's just coming off Oktoberfest and stuff. Tell us about what you're running there with regard to the gamut of beer.
Okay, well, we have everything from your traditional local beers that I'm sure all New Orleanians are familiar with, to a great international selection of bottled beers from countries varying as far as France and the Czech Republic, as well as now that we have beers on tap, we have about 15 beers on tap, and we rotate some of those taps to include some local beers as well as microbrews from California and beyond.
Okay. Are you all planning any type of special events like beer tasting, since that's getting just like almost as popular as wine tastings? Anything along those lines that you want to talk about to lure the customers in addition to your fabulous food?
Sure. We don't have anything currently planned for a beer tasting, but we do have a wine tasting in the works.
Great.
Yeah.
Anytime. Do you have a set a date yet?
Yeah, we have actually. It's going to be December 8th.
So, babe, do you know what day of the week that might be?
That's a Friday.
Perfect day. Time? Any idea of time?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to shoot for starting around 7 o'clock. A good friend of mine's cousin, a gentleman by the name of Gilbert, is going to come and do a presentation on French wines, and we're going to pair that with some of the food on the menu.
So it's not, there you go, folks. So it's not strictly wine, because, some people like to have a little tidbits with that. So you're going to be doing some food as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, if someone wants to find out about that, they can call the restaurant.
Yeah, they can call the restaurant directly.
That'll be great. So remember, you can call them on the restaurant in the phone book. I'm sure you can get directory assistance for Storyville. So that's December 8th in the evening. Hopefully, if we're not doing anything, maybe we can stop in and see, because we'd love to meet and greet some of the folk. Anything else you want to tell us about the restaurant? Again, remember, folks, it's Storyville. It's open 7 days a week. Starting at 11 a.m. all the way through till they close the doors. So you can come and get something to eat almost any time of the night. That's really great. And they got a full menu, as we've seen. A lot of emphasis on the burger. You can go for 15 different times, I think I said, or more, and have a different burger every time. Now, how you like that? That's really great. So I encourage you to try those. Like I said, it brings back a lot of memories to me in growing up and being able to have all those different types of burgers, which in those days that was considered a delicacy burger. And today I think it's coming back. Anything else you want to tell the folks before I tell them about some other future programming?
No, just come down and try our food at Storyville Spirits and Burgers. We have a great selection, and we We have, again, 2 full bars, a lot of international selection of beer as well as wine. And, thanks for having me on, Bob.
You're welcome. To aim to please. So that's Storyville, RACHON Banks and his co-owner. Don't forget to tell us you saw it on Restaurant Review. I'm sure they'd love to hear that. All right, folks, let me tell you a little bit about some other things. As you know, as we said in the beginning, this is... next week is Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, I may be called out of town a couple of days before Thanksgiving. If that's the case, you'll get the privilege of getting to see RACHON again and then a couple of more, our forerunners, because we would like you to, since it's a very contemporary restaurant. If not, then hopefully we'll be bringing you something new. We haven't finalized, but we do want to talk about a couple of restaurants that will be on in the near future, if not next week. So next week you can either see an archival, you'll see again about Storyville or something, or maybe we can put a new one together if I don't go out of town. A couple of new ones that we're going to talk about. One is a rebirth. And that is a restaurant we had years ago on Ferret Street. Now, you know, Ferret has been a dying street for years, but as part of our recovery and Ed Blakely, it was designated the first remarket zone. All of the buildings have been revitalized, fresh paint, and are all looking for new owners. And one of the ones that was there before was actually a great little Latino restaurant called La Cocina Escondida, which was the Hideaway Kitchen. It's now been taken over by the sister of the lady was on. It's called Las Penitas, P-E-N-I-T-S. You know, we got lots of Latin food coming up to you because of the Latin population. We'll be bringing that. Another little neighborhood, great little coffee shop with an Italian twist. It's called Il Posto on Dryads, the 40 right down the block from Pascal Manali's, the third block off of Napoleon. Give it a try. She does great pastries. Not only that, she slices, it's all Italian meats and cheeses, mortadellas, all the good stuff into sandwiches, salads. Really a great little place, beautifully decorated. Now, and lastly, one of the musical guests, a good friend of mine has put out this CD called, the name of that group is Chef Mentor. And if you get a chance, they're working on a new one they're going to be on sometime in the near future. Kind of, it's a little experimental film, music, but at the same time, very, very nice. And we'll be talking more about it. Again, thanks for watching. If you have a chance, send us any musical guests you like. We're still starving for musical guests. So please, let's get back to the norm before pre-Katrina and get some music on here. We'd love to hear. We thank our chef for coming on. Watch for us next week, like I said, with either a repeat or if I'm here for a new program. But until then, we're going to go ahead and tell you that this is Restaurant Review, and we'll see you in the neighborhood restaurants.
Again! I'll get that Alicia Almighty if it's the last thing I do.
Listen up, energy hogs. We got a real porker of a house here. Get in there and waste some energy.
There's no insulation, boss. It's hog heaven.
Leaky windows, too. This is gonna be a